Peace. My life has been seemingly defined by a series of earthquakes. I'm originally from New York City, Manhattan's Lower East Side. My father was from Harlem, and the earliest memory I have comes from when I was about 3 or 4 years old. I can remember him pushing me briskly through the street in a metal shopping cart. I was laughing and smiling, and I remember being in a state of pure happiness as he was pushing and running behind me. But the way that I was feeling was abruptly interrupted when my mother finally caught up to us. My mom and dad started basically wishboning me back and forth in the middle of the street. They both had an arm apiece, yanking and saying, "Give me my son," and "This is my son," and so he is my son too. My father was an alcoholic, and in preparation for this TED Talk, I asked my mother what kind of drunk would she say that he was. She said that he was a very violent drunk. I agree. He was outrageous and violent, and when I was a baby, he threw me down a flight of stairs. That was crazy. My mother couldn't deal with the domestic violence any further, so she left and moved to Virginia. When me and my sisters made it down here, my mom had already been dating this guy. He was a drug addict and an alcoholic. Being from New York, I was unfamiliar with kerosene heaters, and I touched one. After I touched the stove, the palm of my hand was instantly covered with blisters. I guess that lesson wasn't enough because my mom's boyfriend decided that I deserved a beating to go along with my burns. And I can clearly remember an instance where he and my mother were punching one another in the face in the middle of the street. And ultimately, they broke up after that. Thank God. Then there was another guy. He was also a drug addict and an alcoholic. He and my mother had started dating. And when he introduced himself to me and my sisters, it stands out in my memory because he was so nice. That didn't last, though. And in the summer of 1991, dude beat me almost like every single day. I'm talking about with belts, switches, hands, a cutting board, an electrical extension cord, every day. I tried to duck him, but I couldn't. This is no exaggeration. When dude beat me with that electrical extension cord, it was the day before the first day of school. And I remember not being able to sit down on the school bus the next day. I remember being in class that morning wishing that I had enough courage to tell my teacher what was actually going on. Right now, as I stand here talking to you, my legs still have scars on them from the summer of '91. There was another guy. He was a drug addict and an alcoholic as well. I was older now, maybe 16 or 17, so there weren't any more beatings really happening at that time. One evening, though, this guy was being really disrespectful to my mother during an argument. He and I got into a slight physical altercation, and I ended up getting the better of him. I guess his timing was perfect to get his get back. It's a cold world, so one day dude lied on me, and he told my mother that when he came downstairs one night that me and my friends were at the kitchen table cutting up drugs on her plates. When my mother confronted me about it, I told her that I didn't do it, but she kicked me out, and I've pretty much been locked up ever since. I'm serving a life sentence without the possibility of parole. Everybody has a story, and it is worth me noting that I love my mother very, very much. In fact, she is my hero. After 20 plus years of me being incarcerated, she apologized to me for my upbringing and abuse. And another reason is because throughout my childhood, I've witnessed this 90-pound woman have to physically fight off and defend herself against grown men. I've cried over her battle wounds, and I can recall times where she had to apply extra makeup and put on sunshades just so she could go to work. It was painful to live, but heroic on her part. According to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, in 2022, almost 2,000 children died as a result of child abuse and neglect. And in that year alone, Child Protective Services received reports of maltreatment for over 7 million children. Statistics indicate that child abuse survivors are at an increased risk for delinquency, drug use, and imprisonment. Childhood abuse is a risk factor and one of the most common events leading to the development of post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety, insecurity, low self-esteem, inappropriate or troubled relationships, or even a lack of empathy. To all biological mothers and fathers, adoptive parents, foster parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, older cousins, or any adult with guardianship over a child. If you find yourself in a situation where you feel you absolutely have to discipline your child, first, calm down and think about positive reinforcement, because physical punishment is not an answer. And if you erroneously decide to beat them and they have a look of devastation in their eyes after what has just taken place, please stop. And don't put your hands on your children ever again. There are courses for anger management and outlets to correct any abusive tendencies that a guardian may have. Statements like, "This is going to hurt me more than it hurts you, and I only beat you because I love you," they leave a disassociation between man, woman, and child. Then the trust leaves, and it makes children feel like the love is gone as well. As an adult, I am plagued by the statistics. And if you've seen some of the things that I have seen, and if you've experienced some of the things that I have, then I beg you to please go out and seek professional help. The children who are currently suffering at the hands of an abuser, I love you, and I am sorry for everything that you are going through. And the burden's not on you to go out and seek help. The adults in our lives just have to stop with the foolishness, because the most vulnerable of our population are not our punching bags. They are not our whipping posts, and they should not be the objects of our lust. Children are our link to the future, and they must be nurtured, respected, loved, protected, and educated. As a society, let us teach an abundance of love from the beginning and end all forms of domestic violence, child abuse, and neglect. Thank you. Peace.